Today, we are digging into the incredible story of Allanridge. It's a small South African town with a history that just sounds made up. A 50-year saga of bad luck, sheer persistence, and one of the richest gold discoveries the world has ever seen. So, let's just start with the central mystery, the question that frames this entire story. How in the world does a tragic shipwreck off the coast of France lead to a massive gold rush in the middle of South Africa half a century later? It sounds completely impossible, right? Well, stick around because every single piece of this puzzle is connected. Our story kicks off way back in 1896, and it doesn't start with a bang. It starts with a whisper of gold, a whisper that was silenced almost as soon as it was heard. And this timeline just shows you how quickly everything went from hope to absolute disaster. So in 1896, two prospectors are convinced they've found a huge gold reef. But the so-called experts back in Johannesburg, they basically laugh them out of the room. So determined to prove everybody wrong, they get on a ship, the SS Drummond Castle, to take their ore samples to London. And then, on June 16th, that ship hits a reef and vanishes beneath the waves, taking the proof of gold with it. Just think about that. 4 minutes. That is the sheer speed of this tragedy. The SS Drummond Castle, carrying the only physical evidence of these legendary goldfields, was gone in less time than it takes to make a cup of coffee. Out of 246 people on board, only 3 survived. The discovery and the men who made it were lost to the sea. So, with the proof resting at the bottom of the ocean, the story enters this long, dark period. I mean, the next 50 years would just be defined by war, by exile, and a whole series of frustrating, heartbreaking near misses. The next massive setback came with the Second Boer War. The owners of the very farm where that first whisper of gold was found, 2 brothers, Barend and Hendrik Klopper, were fighting as Boer soldiers, and they get captured by the British. And they weren't just put in a local prison. Nope, they were exiled to the remote island of St. Helena, way out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. This is the same island, by the way, where Napoleon was exiled. So now, the land with all this hidden gold is owned by prisoners of war, thousands of miles away from home. And this is where the story has one of those incredible twists of irony that you just can't make up. Decades later, the very first mine to finally strike it rich in this area would be named, you guessed it, the St. Helena Gold Mine. It was a direct nod to the island where the land's original owners were present. Wild, right? And you know, the streak of bad luck just keeps on going. In 1904, another prospector, a guy named Archibald Megson, he finds clear proof of gold. And what happens? He's rejected by the experts again. And he gets so frustrated, the story goes, that he actually booby-trapped the pit with dynamite to protect his find before just walking away. But after decades and decades of failure, one man finally arrives who's gonna change everything. And he's not coming with a pickaxe and a prayer, he's coming with science. His name was Allan Roberts. See, Roberts was a geologist, and the local farmers, they were absolutely fascinated by his work. They started bringing him rock samples from their land, and they gave him this wonderful, affectionate nickname, Klip Doctor, which is Afrikaans for stone doctor. He was the man who could read the stories hidden inside the rocks. So, by the 1930s, using his geological theories, Roberts gets enough funding to drill a scientific borehole on a farm named Aandenk. He even calls it the borehole of hope. But just like everyone who came before him, it seemed like his luck ran out. The money dried up, and the drilling screeched to a halt. They had managed to drill down to a depth of 4,046 feet. And for 11 long years, that drill just sat there, silent. It really looked like another heartbreaking failure in a long, long line of them. So, after all that work, all that science, all that hope, how close were they, really? Just 400 feet. Can you believe it? They had stopped drilling only about 120 meters short of the basal reef, which would turn out to be one of the richest gold-bearing layers ever discovered on planet Earth. It was an absolute tragedy of timing and money. But the story doesn't end there in heartbreak. Oh no, after another decade, the Stone Doctor's theory would finally be proven right, sparking a gold rush that would literally change the entire nation. The big turning point finally came in April 1946. A completely different drilling operation nearby hit gold, with values so incredibly, mind-blowingly high that it triggered an immediate, frantic gold rush. All of a sudden, everyone believed there was gold in the Free State. And this right here, this is the final, beautiful vindication. With all this new money and interest flooding the area, miners went back to Robert's original abandoned borehole of hope. They drilled just 400 feet deeper, and there it was. Bam! They struck the Basel Reef exactly where the clip doctor had predicted it would be all those years before.
The 50-year saga of failure and frustration was finally over, and in its place, a town would rise up, built on the foundations of persistence and one man's unshakable belief in geology.
Of course, a new town, Allanridge, was established, named in honor of the stone doctor himself, Allan Roberts. It was professionally designed to handle the boom, and that Aandenk borehole, that perfect symbol of near failure and ultimate triumph, was declared a national monument. So what's become of Allanridge today? Well, here's an interesting reality check. Its modern visitor sentiment score is about 45 out of 100. It's not some bustling tourist hub. It's really a quiet town, almost a living monument to its own dramatic birth. And that really brings us to this final thought. Maybe the true value of Allanridge today isn't in fancy attractions, but in its incredible story. It's a place that reminds us that history is so often a tale of near misses and second chances, and that sometimes the greatest treasures are only found after a lifetime of searching.